Hey, how's it going everyone? My name is Brandon Clements and welcome back to another very exciting video here on Glasshand. Today I want to talk to you about Metahumans, which is a technology from Unreal Engine from Epic Games. It's amazing. You guys have probably seen so many videos on Mesh to Metahumans, and this will be a little bit different because it's not a step-by-step video. It's more of an overview. So in the future I would like to do an actual course on creating characters for games, film, animations, what have you. And this is kind of like just me putting my thoughts out there, and I'd like to get some feedback from you guys, how you guys are doing stuff. But I will definitely show you the projects. We'll go a little bit in depth, and I'm going to have chapter markers here. We're going to start off with an overview in Miro.com. If you've never used it before, it's really cool. It's just a good way to start a mind map, if you will. And it's something that I use just to kind of put complex ideas down. It just helps me kind of visualize. It's kind of like blueprints for planning. Okay, I'm done with the dumb jokes. So we'll go ahead and get into it. And like I said, there'll be chapter markers below. And hey, today I have my social media links below. As you can see, I'm on TikTok because I gotta be a cool kid. And I'm also on Instagram, the Brand Clem on Instagram. If you guys want to give me a follow, that'd be cool. It's a really nice way just to connect with me and see kind of my everyday life and whatever. All right, back to the video. You guys don't care, I know. This is my pipeline for 3D humans, or more, not necessarily a pipeline, but just how I like to create characters with Mesh to Metahumans. So first of all, we start at the very beginning of just trying to capture someone's likeness. So I have a Sony A7 III, I believe, A7 III, yeah. It's actually what's streaming right now. But I take this camera out. I just have a kit lens. I don't have anything special. Definitely shoot on manual mode for these photographs. You're going to want to have consistent exposure. You're going to want to have consistent white balance. Everything is going to be pretty much locked in manual mode. And I'll show you some examples of my beautiful wife, Taylor, who I actually scanned and created a metahuman out of. So I actually went outside to a location. It's actually on our deck. We have white siding. There's a lot of bounce lighting. But as you can see in one of the photographs, her face was a little bit in shadow. It just wasn't getting enough bounce light. Honestly, if she was holding a white card or just anything to bounce a little bit more light back up into her face, the results would have been really, really good. I mean, the results were already pretty good, but definitely you want to try to have as less shadows as possible. De-lighting, there's a lot of different de-lighting tools out there. For humans, for human face, it's something you just want to capture on location or in the environment, because that's going to be very hard to remove and make it look natural, not scary. Okay, so let's go ahead and zoom in here. I would highly recommend in this process to use a DSLR. I know there's a lot of like iPhone apps and stuff out there, but man, I'm not a big fan of the iPhone camera at all. And I think the compressed images that come off of it are awful. Like, they look really good on the phone and social media or what have you, but man, once you are trying to do something complex in computer graphics, definitely the raw images from a DSLR, from a modern Canon camera or Sony camera, if you don't have one, it'd be nice to invest in a really good camera, especially if you want to get into photogrammetry. It's gonna change everything for you. Trust me on that. And it will help you align the images a lot better too, just because of a better sensor and everything. So soft lighting, do not take the photos in direct sunlight. You do, like with shadows, you do not want to have something that is gonna change from time to time, because even if you were taking it in the sun position is going to change subtly over time. You may miss up. It's just not a good idea. It's best to do it on an overcast day, or in an area where there's not direct sunlight, like here. Should have had a bounce card, but what are you gonna do? So what I like to do is, after I get all my images aligned in reality capture, let's jump over to reality capture really quick. You can see that I took around 400 images, 391 images to be exact. and 390 of them aligned, which is really, really good. If you have a data set and you're only missing one, pretty good, pretty good. That's the kind of results that you want. And just some small tips when shooting. Notice between these photographs here, I have these are actually, if I zoom in, these are the actual cameras. You can make this bigger by going to, let's say, Scene 3D View, and then you can actually turn the camera scale up. Okay, so you can see that there are quite a bit, especially here on the lower angles, a massive gap actually between photos. Reality capture does a pretty good job, but you're going to want a higher percentage of overlap, especially from these photographs as you go around. And as you go, you kind of want to lean. You don't want to like take a step because, like I said, you want to have a really high percentage of overlap as you go around. And you want to get as low and as high as you possibly can. You'd like to get under the chin and the top of the head if you can, which you can see with Taylor. I wasn't able to capture that portion right on the top of her head. I just didn't reach high enough, or what have you. And if you have a really good data set, you can honestly use the workflow tab and start this button right here, literally start. We'll go through and it will do the alignment, it will do the texturing, it will do, I believe, most of this process for you, and then you can go ahead and export. So if you're not super into reality capture or any of these photogrammetry techniques, they do have a simplified tab under workflow, and it works great. It's awesome. And I would recommend once you get to the let's see, once we get to the meshing portion, let's see, yeah, here we go, the create model portion, just use normal detail. I mean, unless you know that you need high detail, there's really not a reason to be like over encumbered with so many polygons that you can't use it later. So speaking of later, after you mesh, you want to export into Blender. A quick note, it will take a little bit of money to get it outside of reality capture, but I think this model was like under $1, so it's like barely anything. And it's an amazing tool. It'll help you save time. That money will be made up from the time that you're saving by using a great tool. So then going out of reality capture, going straight into Blender. I love Blender. It's no secret. It's an incredible software. The sculpting tools are just insane. And what I would like to do in Blender is just Control Tab into sculpting mode, and honestly just clean up the model, because we're going to prep this and go into the Mesh to Metahumans plugin that's inside of Unreal Engine. So if I come over here, I honestly like using the clay strips brush and just kind of smoothing out some of these places. Right now I have it in the Eevee viewport, but obviously you would want to go into shaded mode here, and I have a lot of software open, so Blender doesn't like me right now. But you would just want to smooth areas like this out. Maybe use the control left mouse button with the clay strips to just kind of push that volume back down, and just fix areas of the model that you know is going to cause problems in future steps of this process. And you can see this kind of weird line, and some of this you can see another line here on her face. I believe this is from me not moving fast enough and her kind of moving a little bit. Obviously it would be great to have a rig where you have multiple cameras fire the image all at once at the same time, because then you capture everything in that one moment. But I'm just actually moving around, and it was a very hot day, so she was a good sport. So like you would want to come in and just smooth some of this high frequency noise out a little bit. And it would be great if you could go in with a brush and add some of this high frequency noise back in, like with skin detail. A website that would be really great to invest in is Texturing XYZ. I'll go ahead and bring that up real quick. So this website is incredible for just finding image textures, brushes, There's so much scan data. There's a lot of stuff on this website. If you go into the faces displacement, you can use and project a lot of these images back onto your model. These are captured from real people, real humans and everything. Also, the data that's coming off of the camera is high resolution images if you're using a DSLR. So the data coming off of the camera could be reused and repurposed and baked back onto the mesh to metahumans mesh. Sounds weird to say, but the mesh that you would get from Metahumans Creator, you could bring that back into Blender and then bake the photographic detail back onto your mesh and combine those in Photoshop or Substance Painter or even Blender to give you some really nice photographic detail that you've picked up from your model. I believe this image here is 4K, but you could export a really high resolution image from reality capture. Totally doable. Okay, so then after we go from Blender, we're going to bring it into Unreal Engine, mesh to Metahumans. Okay, so inside of Unreal Engine, what you want to go ahead and do is, I'm going to dock this real quick, is you want to bring in your mesh. So I believe I have a raw scan folder here. I'm going to show you some of my raw scans. I actually did one of me. This is the final result, what we'll get to eventually. This is Bo Taylor and I standing here. Haha, mesh metahumans is great. It's amazing. So we're going to walk through this together. We're actually going to make a Taylor folder here. And what we're going to do is we're going to import the FBX from Blender. And the FBX import is going to take a while. When you have a lot of polygons, it just seems like FBX is pretty slow. You could use OBJ to import, but I feel like that's probably not going to be a massive speed boost, but you could try it out. And once that comes in, it looks like it didn't import the color map, so I'm going to go fetch that real quick. Okay, now that we have everything imported, I'm going to go to our material, and we're going to drag in our base color map. Go ahead and attach that to base color. And then let's check some of these maps. So this is set to color, which is incorrect. We're going to go ahead and browse to this real quick. Double click, and what I like to use, I think it's just easier just to come down and change the compression to masks. It's going to yell at me, so then we're going to go to masks here, and this will basically just give us linear color information. It's not actually the metallic, it's the roughness, so it looks like it messed up there. A little bit of an oopsie. So we'll open the model and check it out, and I think everything here, it looks good. We're going to right click and we're going to go to Metahumans, Metahuman Identity, and I'm going to rename this, let's see, Taylor 03, because I think this is probably like the third time that I've done this, just because I've been testing it so much. We'll double click. It's going to ask you to log in to your Metahuman Creator account, which is probably under your Epic Games account. I hope you got all that under one account, because that would be kind of messy. So let's find Taylor, and I believe this is it. So once we have added that component, then we want to go to the neutral pose, and we actually want to use a wider or longer lens, sorry, and I found that Taylor's likeness was captured better with 30 FOV. This is something you're going to want to mess around with depending on the character, the person, your scan data, but it's recommended to use a pretty long lens. And then we want to basically kind of zoom out to where we see the top of her head, and this looks pretty good. And we're going to hit this plus mark. We're going to call this front. We're going to go ahead and lock the camera, right click again. We're going to, we're going to turn on auto tracking first. Then once the trackers load up, we're going to lock the camera. Okay, so it's actually trying to find her face right now. We could actually change it to unlit mode, so we just see our texture. And then let's go ahead and lock our camera, and then we can use our mouse wheel to zoom in and make any adjustments if needed. And it looks like, you know, some of this didn't quite find her eye open. And you can move these points once you lock the camera. That was something when I first jumped in the first day, I was like, why can't I move the trackers? So you can get all this adjusted, and you can grab the lines instead of the points to kind of move everything at once. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. And then we just want to pull her eye down a little bit. Let's kind of open this up. And actually, this leads me to a really good point. You want to make sure the person that you are capturing has their eyes open, not wide open. You don't want it like super wide open, but I'm the kind of guy when I'm relaxed, like my eyes look kind of closed, and you definitely want to be like alert, you just don't want to look too freaky, but you want to have your eyes open like Taylor did, because in my scan that I'm about to show you, it failed pretty miserably. So let's go to the body type, and I'm going to choose normal, and I'm going to change the height to short. Sorry, Taylor. And choose the thin body type, or the normal body type in the middle here. And then we're going to hit Metahuman Identity Solve. And then after that's done, we can say Mesh to Metahuman. And that will actually send the result up to Metahuman Creator. I'm going to skip that step because there's a lot of like tweaking and things. I'll just show you an overview of Taylor's. What I'd like to show you is this is a good scenario, a good case. What is a bad scenario? What does a bad scan look like? Well, if we go into my folder here, I'm going to show you the first one that I did. This is pretty cringe, but I'm going to go ahead and show you anyways. So this was the scan, and Taylor actually was behind the camera, and I thought she did a wonderful job. But you can see that some of the areas on top of my head weren't captured. And all in all, it's a pretty decent scan, but you can see my eyes are like halfway closed. That is no bueno. You do not want that. You want to have your eyes open a little bit. And so what I did was I took that into Blender, and I actually created a different result here. Sorry, that's the asset. Here we go. I actually had to go back and smooth out my hair. So I did a little bit of sculpting on my hair. If you have like a bald cap or even a net, it's great to kind of pull your hair back and have that out of your face. Trust me on that. You're going to get some weird results when you go to Metahuman Creator if your hair isn't pulled back. And I also have long hair in the back. I have a mullet. What's up? But I actually had to sculpt it back because it was interfering with the color map, and it was also interfering with some weird just mesh results on Metahuman Creator. So that's going to cause you problems if you don't have that. So eyes open, you want your head looking forward and straight. My head is kind of turned a little bit to the side, and also, pull that hair back. All right, so once you do the Mesh to Metahuman button, it will upload it to Creator, and Creator's loading. We're going to jump into Taylor's, and I'm going to go through some of the settings that I changed to try to, get a pretty good result out of her model. Okay, so here we are in Metahuman Creator. I'm going to go ahead and make this full screen for us. And yeah, everything here looks pretty good. So the first thing that you're going to want to do, obviously you're not going to have skin textures your first time that you upload it. It's going to have a wireframe, and it's going to have all these different funky colors. You have to come into the custom mesh, and you're going to want to edit some of this. So I'm going to go ahead and hide the hair and just show you guys what this looked like when it first came in. So as you can see, you have areas of the skull that were influenced by the hair, by Taylor's hair. So you actually want to bring that influence down. And when you're bringing the region influence down, it's actually trying to match it with models that are in the database of captures that they've scanned and logged. And, they have a massive database. 3Lateral, I believe, is the company. Correct me in the comment section below. But I believe that's the company who composed and captured and scanned everyone to build that massive database that they have. As you can see, for the forehead, a common problem that happens is you kind of get this rhinoceros looking horn or unicorn horn that comes along the hairline, and that's basically the hair from the scan data. So if you were to smooth that out in ZBrush or Blender, it's going to look a lot better. So you can just turn that region influence down so that looks pretty good. The other big problem area that I've seen in my kind of process of creating these different metahumans for different projects is the eyes are immediately, when you look at a character, you're always going to look at their eyes or their mouth when they're speaking. And this can give some really weird results. Something to take note of when you're doing the actual 2D tracking. You can see that Taylor's actually came in really nice. But there's going to be some models where a lot of this data isn't going to come in so well, and the eyelashes are going to kind of align in weird ways, or perhaps the fatty tissue above the lid, the top eyelid, is going to kind of connect to the front of the eyelid. It's just going to get really weird. So if you use some of the ROMs, the ROM stands for range of motion, you can see some of the problems that I was talking about. And basically this is the outer eye, and you probably want to change this to 0, and then that starts to help a little bit better along with the eyes there. So this is, again, just something that the system, it has rules that it has to follow. It has joints and all this skinning that it has to create. So sometimes you may not be able to choose that, especially if you go through some of these ROMs and you start to check out, is it breaking? Is it not breaking? You'll have to change the region of influence. Then after that, it's pretty straightforward from here. You can go into sculpting. So you can click this sculpt button and come in and make edits. The first time you do this, it's going to ask you to create a copy. So then you can come in and make subtle tweaks and find details that weren't captured from the FBX or, the reality capture, anything before this. You can make all of those changes here in context with lighting, with shading and hair and groom and all that stuff, which is so crazy to me that you can make those last minute decisions here, save them, and then they propagate throughout the pipeline. It's super incredible. Okay, so let's move forward from here on the chart. After Unreal Engine, Mesh and Metahumans, we go to Creator, and then we send that creator to Maya or Unreal Engine, depending on your pipeline. But I find going to Maya is super helpful because then you can use Rococo Studio, Rococo mocap. You can use Xsen's mocap and bring that into Maya. You can do XGen grooming inside of Maya. You can get the T pose or the A pose out of Maya into Marvelous, and then create close, and then Marvelous back into Maya. So if you're going for high animation, like high film quality assets, you're going to want to kind of centric a lot of this around Maya because it's going to be the most versatile option for you. Now there are ways to do it in Unreal Engine, such as purchasing motion captures from different marketplaces and blending them together in Sequencer. But there's one big component that's going to be missing from that, and my favorite software that I've been using and testing throughout has been Faceware for facial animations. And it isn't the way I use it, it's not automatic. You can stream the data in using Take Recorder or Sequencer Recorder and capture that in Engine. It's great, but you lose so much expressive qualities from the face that you have to go back and do keyframe animation. And you can stream it into Unreal Engine and then add a control rig on top of it and do additive animation so that you can tweak it inside a sequencer with lighting and everything. And that's great, but I still find the traditional going through and doing the extremes, marking the extremes in Faceware, and then sending that from Analyzer to Retargeter in Maya, and having that flexibility, having ways of sharing that data with other artists is so much more flexible. Yeah, I wish it was automatic, but I don't believe anything is going to be super automatic for that facial data. I hope I'm proven wrong in the future. But I'll crack open the Maya file for you now, and we'll dive into that and see what it looks like. Okay, so I got our Maya project opening, and I have the full rig in here. But if you right click and say, let's see, it doesn't look like that model is downloaded. If we right click and say go to files here, and you dive in assets, metahumans, in here under source assets, you will find a full rig, and then you will find this medium. So this stands for male, medium, normal weight body rig, and you're going to want to actually use this file. I'm using the full rig, and man, there's a lot there, and it's kind of slow, but you know, with Maya's cache timeline, it all plays back pretty fast. And by the way, I do have audio playing in this timeline that goes with the performance that I actually captured. So apologies if that's like super loud. But what I'm doing here is, let me see, let's go back to my perspective view, and let's go to shaded by hitting 5 on the keyboard. And I'm using the Maya HIK system, and I have a flip animation, this backflip animation that I got from the content browser in Maya. So if you go to Windows, content browser, you can go to mocap, and that's where I imported it. So I went ahead and I referenced in that animation. And then inside of Maya's HIK tool, which this could be a video on its own. I know this is a massive video. Each of these topics could be its own single video. But I basically created this character 1 and created the definitions based on the driver joints. So if you come over here, these are the joints that I am selecting. Before you have the rig, it's easier to select. I have a rig on it now, so it's kind of a mess, but it makes perfect sense because after you define the definitions here, so you want to do the thigh, you want to do the calf, foot, forearm, upper arm, and then diving into the spine 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this is spine 01, hips, head. I believe that's everything. Oh, and of course the clavicle here. So once you define that whole skeleton, and the root, of course. So once you have everything defined on your character, then you want to go ahead and set the source to the mocap. Okay, so once I choose the motion capture data, you can see that the arms look a little weird. All that stuff we can clean up once we bake it to the control rig under bake to control rig. Okay, so then we come back to the rig. So then if you select a controller, and if you see the controller 1 left shoulder effector, and you come in here and you try to make changes and nothing is happening, it's because you actually want to drill down a little bit further here and do the left arm BPKG, and this is where you're going to have the graph to go ahead and make changes to that controller. So just something to take note of. A lot of these keyframes just kind of are baked in because of the complexity of the rig, and you just need to make sure that you're grabbing the right keyframes. You can hold middle mouse to make those adjustments. And then for facial animations, it's pretty complex. This video is already so long that I don't want to throw in the whole faceware component to it. But I will tell you that it is really awesome. I went ahead and made a camera that sticks to the character's face. And that way, when he's in, going mid backflip, you can see it's actually still stuck to his face, so I could concentrate on the poses of the face. And if you come up to faceware retargeter, it will launch another window for you. You'll load up your performance, and then this window will carry you along throughout the timeline. It will actually, this button here, get auto poses, it will create poses from Analyzer, what you've done in Analyzer, and it will set the extremes for you, and you just have to go through and kind of tweak everything. Like I said, that's another whole video. The rig for Metahumans is really complex, but man, you can do some incredible poses with it, as you can see. They're super expressive. It's really, really cool. And if you guys are super interested in faceware, please let me know in the comment section below. I can make a video on faceware that goes more in depth using Analyzer, Retargeter, and then animating inside of Maya. So let's say we have everything done and we want to export to Unreal Engine. How do we do that, and how do we get it in? Well, we have these selection groups here. So if you say select set members of the body joints, it will go through and it'll select the body joint. What I liked to use was the game exporter here. So if we use the game export tool, make sure that you have export selection turned on, or else you're going to bake the entire animation into an FBX. It's going to be really crazy. You don't want to do that. I went ahead and set a name for it, start and end point. Then I also created the path for it. And it's just basically you want to click bake to animation, or I'm sorry, bake animation, and set the up axis to Z, because the up in Unreal Engine is Z. And then you go ahead and click export, and that will just export the skeleton for you. I would do the exact same thing for the, let's see, if we come down to face controls, select members. You could probably just do a standard FBX for this one, or you can use the game exporter. It's just going to help you maybe set names and make sure that the axes are correct and all that. But I believe for this one, I just went ahead and set export selection. So let's go ahead and hop into Unreal Engine and take a look at Sequencer. Okay, so we're back in Unreal Engine. I have a backflip level sequence that's loaded up. We can open that and dive into the camera. And you can see I rendered it out for Reels and TikTok. So if you go down to your camera and you just flip the film back down here, the sensor width and height, you can actually render out vertical videos. Quick tip. But the way that you would do this is, let's just start from scratch. I'm going to go ahead and delete these tracks here. As you can see, everything looks a little wonky. But what you want to do, I'm going to actually just delete these from the scene. So I believe when you load this up, it may look a little different for you, but you can just go ahead and set the preview mesh if you just want to analyze and make sure the animation came in okay. I set mine to male, medium, narrow, body preview. That's under the Metahumans common folder. As you can see the path there. And that was looking really good. So that was pretty much it there. So let's go ahead and add our Metahumans to the scene. So I have Taylor 02 here. So I'll just go ahead and drop her there. I'll drop mine and just move them up a little bit to where the location on the Z is set to 0. Maybe move them into frame. And then we can open Sequencer, open our level sequence. It's already open. And I'm going to select both the Metahumans, and under track, actor to sequence, add current selection. So both of these actors. And when you do that, it already comes in with Control Rig, which is amazing. Control Rig is so incredible. I actually use Control Rig to clean up a lot of the animations in here. So all you need to do for the face Control Rig is import Control Rig FBX from Maya. That's it. That's basically all you do. You just point it to the FBX. So let me do that real quick. Maya, export, FBX. And then we have the face anim. I believe this is it. Face anim. Yep. So open. And then you want to control map presets to Metahuman control mappings. and then import. And then you can slide these keyframes around, and yeah, everything imports really well that way. So it's super easy to make the animations in Maya and bring them in. You could also edit them here. So let's say there was a section that I wanted to animate. You can add an additive track and set that at the beginning, make it the full length, and then come into this control rig. And if you're not seeing your keys with auto key on, just make sure you make a key at the beginning. If you scroll all the way to the top, you'll just want to make sure to set your first keyframe, and then as you go along, everything will kind of auto key, and you can add additive animation. And if you don't like it, then all you have to do is just go ahead and delete it. Okay, so for the body animation, I'll just click on body, go to animation, and then if I scroll all the way down, I actually have some baked animated sequences that I've done. But let's just go ahead and add backflip body 04. So this is exactly what we did in Maya. So we'll add that for Taylor, and then I'm going to come in for the body. I'm going to add animation, so say backflip. And then I can get rid of the control rigs. And then we both do a backflip. And you can come into the body again. You can add another transform track. And what this will do is allow you to just change the position. So it kind of adds like a little bit of an offset, just adds a transform value in there so you can move them around. But let's say like her arms look kind of weird. Sorry, Taylor, but it's just the skeletons are different. You know, this is the short female. So what you would want to come in and do is grab the body, right click, and then go to bake to control rig, Metahuman control rig, and then I had reduce keys turned on when I did this. So go ahead and hit create. And now we have that animation, but we have a control rig on top of it. So we can come in here and, you know, just kind of edit some of these properties. So we'll kind of like bring that down, maybe lower the clavicle a little bit on both sides. And you can see that didn't work because what I need to do is actually open the sequencer curves here. This is going to make it a lot easier once we select a control. And then I come down to the, let's try the pitch. And you can see that I can just, the same way in Maya, just kind of make tweaks, maybe bring that arm in a little bit. Control A, we'll bring this arm in a little bit. We'll do the pitch again, Control A, maybe bring this down, select this guy, pitch, actually hit save, that's fine. Control A, selected everything, pitch, Control A, and you can see that tweaking all of this stuff is actually pretty easy. You can also do things like make sure that the feet are perfectly on the ground. So we can go to location Z, and we can see that we can start editing some of this stuff. So if we wanted to really dive in here, I'm holding Alt Shift right click to expand this a little bit. I'm grabbing the tangents now. I just want to grab the keys. And if you're having trouble grab the keys, you can just middle click and hold shift, and then I can start offsetting that foot. And the great thing is I can turn up my scalability settings to cinematic, and I can start seeing the contact there. So, you know, that looks good. And then you would just keep going forward and cleaning things up. Or you can just reduce the keys. Once I have all of them selected, I could right click, go to filter, and then go down to simplify and set the tolerance and apply. And yeah, that looks pretty awesome. And if the tangents are getting in your way, you can come to the eye and just say no tangents. So this is a much cleaner, simpler way of working, and you can just come through and edit this mocap data. Okay, let's say that you're done with the cleanup. You just come up to the body, right click, bake animation sequence, baked animations. I have a folder here, and then just name it whatever you want, and then hit OK. And everything looks good. Export to animation. Okay, so one asset was created, and you can get rid of the control rigs and the animation track, add a new animation, and come down to the bottom, and then you can see 08, what we just created. And now we have a track, and that can be applied to all other metahumans that have the same skeletal setup. So it's pretty awesome. It's really easy to reuse all these different assets again. All right, so thank you guys so much for following along in this massive video. If you made it to the end, hey, congratulations. You're probably 10 of thousands who actually made it all the way through to the end. Let me know what you thought of the video, of this video essay, I should say. Leave a comment in the comment section below. If there's something that you'd like to see that I covered in this video, but maybe something more in depth, let me know in the comment section below. I definitely answer a lot of questions down there. It's something that I do love to do, is interact with you guys, you know, get to know what you're into, get to know what you guys like, and hopefully make some content that you'll come back and watch, and we can hang out and talk some more about all these amazing tools. So, oh yeah, don't forget to follow me on other social media. I do respond to Instagram DMs, and I'm trying to use TikTok a little bit more to post fun videos and stuff. So you can definitely see me there and talk to me there. So thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate it. And until next time, see you in the next one. Take care.